So I have a series of tweets here, 4 tweets from June 2018, talking about creating a vision of the world in your head. So let me go read this and then we will break it down. When you've created a vision in your head of what the world is, what reality is, it's literally world-shattering to consider that you might not have the details right. You might say that the truth is obvious when it's actually largely subjective. It's a composite in our heads. There is the physical reality we all share, and the subjective window on reality that each person observes through. In the physical world, what happened, happened. In the world of our minds, potential is infinite, and we judge reality based on a model of prediction, expectation. When physical reality does not conform to our expectations, it's easy for us to become disoriented. Wait, there was a step before that. I'm sorry. That wasn't correct. This line was, wait, there was a step there before. Wait, there was a step there before. Meaning that you thought something would be there, but it wasn't there. So this applies even more so to the world of thought. An idea accepted as fact, initially, repeated ad nauseum, never challenged, reinforced. This idea will ultimately become fact in a person's head, becoming very difficult to question. If the person chooses not to reassess this information, whether true or false, this part of their window on reality has been set in stone. The story is over. It is now scripture. So it's hard set reality. All right, so this starts here. When you've created a vision in your head of what the world is, what reality is, it's literally world-shattering to consider that you might not have the details right. So yes, confirmation bias can be overwrought, can be, overemphasized. It can get over. That's the greatest prefix you could come up with. You can have too much confirmation bias. You can get stuck in a singular worldview, very, very singular. Of course, you want to be an individual, but you also want to be somewhat adaptable, somewhat flexible, but you'll get stuck. Your confirmation bias is just you know what the world is. Even the things that seem unknown, you're stuck in that sort of, I guess you could say, echo chamber. And you've heard the same message over and over and over again. And it's become reality over time, because there's nothing there to challenge it. There's no dissent. Now, you might have gone through a process. Of course, you did go through a process of being good ideas, bad ideas, right, wrong, and everything in between. You come to your conclusions through probably a merit-based process, a veracity-based process, using the scientific method, looking for evidence, looking for rationality and reason throughout. But, of course, it can be world-shattering when anybody, me, you, anybody, has their confirmation bias exploded with new ideas that they didn't think possible, a new angle that they didn't consider before. So it can be world-shattering if you get so used to your world, your reality. You know that up is up, down is down, left and right. Everything makes sense, but then a new piece of information comes in. And with your cognitive dissonance muscles, if they're weak, you'll just keep on bouncing things off without considering them because you have your confirmation. And it can be a shock to lose that singular, concrete view of what is what it is. So you might say that the truth is obvious. Like, I got this. Guys, I got this. The truth is obvious. We know what it is. Settled science. It's over. We got it. Don't need to do any more question asking. No subjectivity here. It's objectively true. And now I'm going to fact check you to make sure you match up with what's going on in my echo chamber, which I'm now living in, perhaps, where I should be just vacationing there. I'm actually living there. But that happens to us all. That's not something that happens to specific people. It's something that is just part of the human condition. So you might say that the truth is obvious when it's actually largely subjective. There are, as Scott Adams says, 2 movies on one screen, and there's always another way. There's over 7.6 billion perspectives in this world, and everybody has their own way of looking at things. The same sentence doesn't look the same to the 2 different people. One sentence, 2 people, 2 meanings sometimes. And actually, I was looking for a little thought experiment myself. Just a sidebar here. In the comments section below, think of some adjectives that can be used for positive, negative, and neutral. I know there are some words out there, and I was thinking about this. I haven't come up with a list yet, but maybe you can help me start. So please leave me a comment below with some of your adjectives that can mean positive, negative, or neutral. So yes, it's a composite in our heads, the truth. Because we have the objective truth out there, the outer world truth, and then we have our inner world, subjective truth, like what we see, how we process the patterns that we encounter in the world. So we have a composite of what happened, what we remember, what actually happened. Our emotions are tied into that, so there's that emotional element that can create irrationality in our memories. Because, of course, we were probably mind reading, we were probably projecting a little bit. But we have all kinds of ways of recording information in our heads. All different areas. So there is, of course, like I said, the physical reality we all share, the observable, concrete, outer world, objective reality. We know how physics works in our world. We can't question the fact that we all live and we die, and that there are certain interactions between certain chemicals, and just the way that life works, nature works. It's all very well defined. And of course, people's words, actions, and how they impact reality as well. So then there's the subjective window. The window, like the one I'm looking at. We record these videos in the window. The window, subjective as it is, on reality that each person observes through. So you have the physical world. What happened, happened. Okay, you can't dream it away. You can't imagine it away. You can't use any sort of postmodern, post-truth filter and make reality go away. If something happens and there are enough observers, usually 2 or more, and there's a consensus reality formed, of course, we have that physical world where what happened, happened. If you have a war and you drop a bomb on a country, or they drop a bomb on you, people die, there's catastrophe, there's trillions of dollars, maybe even millions of lives, whatever it might be, lost. That's all real. I mean, there's no dreaming that away. But of course, there's 2 or 3 or 7.6 billion ways to look at that true reality, that tangible reality. In the world of our minds, potential is infinite. We don't have a cap on potential. Anything's possible, That's why we have things like our axioms. We have our religions, our gods out there. And of course, then you have things like simulation theory and other competing theories, multiverse, all these things that show that there's potential for that. It's possible. We don't know everything. The truth is unknowable, so we fill in the blanks with different angles on what could be. We judge reality based on a model of prediction, expectation. So once something has been established, once something new happens, the potential is there for that to happen again. People always consider that. If it happened once, it can happen again. Sometimes that's true, sometimes that's false. But it helps when we see that certain behaviors, of course, cause certain reactions. Certain actions cause certain reactions, and the system goes back and forth. You can observe physics, you can observe through a scientific lens, however you'd like to do it. But we do judge reality based on prediction. Okay, our brains fill in the blanks. We get so much information from our environment. We look at out through our five senses. We look at all the things. We look at computers and how they record reality. We look at all this stuff, and then we go, well, we can probably infer what happened. So, yes, expectation. So when physical reality does not conform to our expectations, it's easy for us to become disoriented. Like I said, wait, there was a step there before. And then you trip down the step because you expected it to be there. But it wasn't there. Your expectation did not meet reality. And that's how people can get truly hurt, because they they get muscle memory. Then they get used to certain environments. This is how the blind, of course, are able to memorize where things are. Okay, then other animals, other species have their own way of doing things. You have cats that use smell. They mark their territory. They map out the world. And then when things move, well, there's no object permanence there, and they go, what the hell is going on? Works the same way with ideas, thoughts, and how our inner subjective reality reflects in the outer world. Like, does it match, or is it totally separate? The further our subjective reality is from the objective outer reality, that's kind of the the space where some people might say, well, you're living in clown world, you're living in cloud cuckoo land, you're crazy, you're insane. This is the yardstick. You're not acting in accordance with observable reality, so you're not with it. You might have psychosis, whatever it might be. You're acting irrationally. You're not acting according to what everybody can observe. Lowest common denominator. We're all human. We all observe the world. If you're off in clown world over here and you're saying things that don't reflect in physical reality, yeah, people will start to say, well, what's going on there mentally? But of course, that's those people. That's not your average person that's just facing new things they hadn't seen before and maybe mildly disoriented. So this applies more so to the world of thought. Getting disoriented when physical reality does not conform to our expectations. It applies more so to the world of thought. An idea accepted as fact initially, repeated ad nauseum, never challenged, reinforced. This idea ultimately becomes fact in the person's head, becoming very difficult to question. So again, it's really hard because we know certain things are true, and we know certain things are false, but there's a whole lot out there that we don't know the true potential of. So we use our imagination, okay? And if it's something bad, or something good, regardless, but if it's something bad especially, if it's something that fills you with fear, the sky's the limit, because our survivalism kicks in. We don't want to face things that could really challenge us and harm us in the long run. That's kind of a general statement, but we don't want to turn over stones. It's a very hard process to persuade me, you, or anybody else to turn over stones they've already turned over before. Because what if they're looking out there at the world? What if I'm looking out there and I see, well, there's a lot of people that are acting irrationally. So what is the bar for me? Like, different people have different levels that they want to conform to with this. They say, well, if everybody's acting irrationally this way, I can act irrational too. I guess there's a little bit of that copycat. Like, if you're allowed to do it, it's hypocritical if I can't. There's all different angles to this. So I do say, if the person chooses, it's a choice, it's always your choice, If they choose not to reassess the information, whether true or false, this part of their window on reality has been set in stone. So it's almost like putting up a part of a painting over your window. It just colors. It's almost like putting up stained glass, like in a church glass in the window. And it just colors everything that comes in. That filter colors all the incoming information and gives it the colors of how that filter is configured, how it's arranged, what the art in that case is, if you're using the analogy or metaphor of a church window. So it gets set in stone and the story is over. It's become, well, using the church analogy was good because it becomes scripture. It just becomes a rock-solid part of their worldview. Now, I'm not saying, we always talk about how, on this channel especially, how absolutism has its ups and its downs. And that's about it, just up or down and nothing in between. Reality is that thinking in absolutes is often a fool's errand, so I do try to stay away from it. But again, I also understand that sometimes you just need to take a side. Okay, we're working on this plane of existence, this level of meta-awareness of everything going on. We have our books, we have our everyday reality where we see things happening. We have academics saying one thing, we have politicians saying another thing, sometimes the same thing. But often we have these different filters, these different angles and perspectives. But then you have people that just go with their religion or their ideology. They just go with what they know, what they have found to be familiar, what they've found to hold merit, to hold veracity. And of course, there are different levels of awareness of how religious we may be. In my case, I remain largely agnostic. That means that I could change my opinion, but I do have some viewpoints. You can search for my positions on different issues on Twitter. Just go up to the search bar and go, Real Jeff Tidwell, my position on, to see my positions. So it's okay to have a position, and it's okay to have, to some degree, an absolute one. Okay, your mileage may vary, but I try to remain as flexible as possible. But of course, when you set it in stone, you'd better be right. You'd better be right. Because if you're wrong, well, I don't know. It depends on how important the issue you're talking about is, but you might have trouble fitting in with a lot of your friends that see it differently. As I say with my video, the relationship effects of climate change, things that seem like they're just, other concerns, they do become a large part of the worldview and the day-to-day life and concerns of people. They become a pattern in the heads of people that can be very important and become part, especially if you mix morality and identity, become part of our identity. So on this channel, I largely preach this message of listening to both sides and, of course, hearing everybody out, keeping the dialogue open, not falling prey to the modern religion of censorship, and letting everybody have a voice, even if they might be right, they might be wrong, somewhere in between. However it might be, they may be, as you think, dangerous, destructive, or hateful, or they might be going too far. But regardless, I think they should be able to speak so we can find those outer limits, using that imagination, that infinite imagination we have, constructing some kind of order that isn't too limited, too strict, but at least we have some sort of baseline, so we have control over the situation. We have a window that conforms to reality. So I think we, like I say in some of the videos, art-minded folks think big, think huge. They make huge asks, big asks, just like in the world of persuasion. But of course, when reality comes in, when pragmatism comes in, that filter has to be applied. You have to look at outcomes. You have to look at what works and what doesn't work. It can't always be the sky's the limit. That is a nice place to be able to go. I say you should be able to increase your ego to the top so you have a full range of ability. depending on the situation. I talk about that in one of my recent videos that will be available soon in segment format. But absolutism, of course, is something that, you should be able to swing in and out of. Hey, that's a contradiction, right? You shouldn't be absolutist. You should be able to go back and forth. Well, then you wouldn't be an absolutist. But again, sometimes people feel that they got to put all their energy in one direction. They have to move the vector and try to change things, to shake things up, to get reality to fall into a different formation if things aren't going the way they like. So, yeah. When you've created a vision in your head of what the world is, it's literally world-shattering to consider that you might not have the details right. So definitely watch my video, Cognitive Dissonance Workout Routine. Exercise those cognitive dissonance muscles. Work on your confirmation bias so you have it, but it doesn't overwhelm. Again, there's that prefix over. It doesn't overwhelm your logic centers. It doesn't, you don't get too used to things when there's a possibility that the truth could be different.